Chapter 6. To Live in Separated Unity. Alistair helped carry Hazel's luggage into the library with some effort, the last few minutes of reflected sunlight casting weakening rays upon the vampire prince. Despite the sun, he insisted on fetching her from her home. After an awkward exchange between her parents and Alistair, they took the carriage to the library and enjoyed a pleasant conversation. He apologized for concealing his race when they first met. Many humans initially feared vampires, and that terror was exacerbated by proximity and seclusion. Alistair feared she would react poorly, and so decided against mentioning it until the others were gathered together. Hazel cared little and forgave him the temporary deception on the condition that he answer some of her questions about vampires, which he naturally agreed to. She learned there were varieties of vampires beyond Nosferatu, which Alistair was, and discovered that sunlight no longer killed vampires, but rather crippled them. Vampires were not undead in the strictest sense, but reacted to thaumaturgy in ways similar to undead creatures, which caused much confusion among humans in how to classify them. Alistair also confided that he was learning to fly without the use of wings, though she noted embarrassment when he told her. He had lived with King Aldrich for the last 2 decades as a political hostage, which was apparently less terrible than it sounded. They discussed his family briefly and how he was the youngest child of 5, born to Venarius Czar Erithus, the king of the Nosferatu. As they strode through the library, Hazel noticed that disorganized piles of books had disappeared, and the entire entryway had been cleaned and swept. Cobwebs, which added to the disconcerting decor of the place, had been removed. The library that once exuded a borderline haunted appearance now merely resembled a dimly lit building. Hazel marveled at the changes. Did the king send in a cleaning crew? Alistair smiled thinly. Not directly, no. I'm afraid I'm to blame for its current state of relative order. Really? You did all this yourself? Yes, I did. I had free time, so I cleaned what I could. I can't abide walking through messes, so I organized and shelved the books. Then I beat the dust out of the furniture and swept it up. Despite my best efforts, the dust returns every time I leave this place. Behold! He swept his index finger over a table, creating a light trail. I cleaned this table yesterday, and yet it came back. I swear it's like these old places want to be dusty. Hazel continued noticing the differences from a week ago as they walked. Did you organize the books? No, that endeavor was a little much, even for me. I've done my best to arrange them into something resembling order, but it's only marginally better than it was before I reorganized. Besides, he winked, I didn't want to organize them and spoil our future date. She looked at him sideways. How thoughtful of you. My heart's aflutter. She squinted in the dark after the door shut behind him. Do we know when the mage lamps are going to be fixed? I think an order was placed with the king's magicians, but it may be a while before they arrive. Why bother waiting? Llewellyn said, causing Alistair to jump. Hazel turned toward the voice. She could barely make him out sitting in an armchair 20 feet from them. A large, thin volume that appeared to contain artwork sat on his lap. Can you please make some sort of noise so that people know you're there? Alistair exclaimed, poorly masking his surprise. Llewellyn raised an eyebrow. I did. Yes, but I meant something that we, would know you were present immediately. Alistair paused. Actually, why didn't I hear you? Even those who try to be quiet are easy for me to sense. Llewellyn sighed and closed his book. Vampires are exceptional in their 5 senses, but dark elves are extraordinarily stealthy. They are the children of shadows, and disturb the world around them like shadows. I overheard your conversation, and you, Hazel, mentioned the mage lamps. Are they too dim? Yes, I can barely even see you, Hazel said. Hmm. Llewellyn looked around the library. I suppose it might be a little hard to see for a human. Llewellyn stood and walked to the nearest mage lamp, touching its dim surface. Ideally, mage lamps need to be adjusted once every 30 years. The last time these were charged was... He closed his eyes for a moment. Almost 40 years ago. That would explain why they've lost their luster. Fortunately, the problem is magical, not material. Why is that fortunate? Hazel asked. Because I can channel magic, but the materials would need to be obtained, which would take more time. Let me give you a small lesson in magic. Much as we would enjoy that, Alistair said, we must convey Hazel's personal effects upstairs. Llewellyn narrowed his eyes at the vampire, then at Hazel, then her bags. With an eye roll and an exasperated sigh, he pointed both hands toward the luggage, and with a series of gestures, the bags levitated and left Alistair and Hazel's grasp. Lift, Llewellyn commanded, and Hazel's baggage flew to the end of the room and up the stairs. There, Llewellyn said, turning to the astonished prince. Now you have some time to listen. He closed his eyes and touched the magical device, running his fingers over its smooth, round surface. When crafting mage lamps, a temporary recharging enchantment is preferable to a permanent enchantment. Creating a mage lamp that requires occasional recharging is so simple, any magician could do it. Maintaining such an enchantment is easy, providing the original construct is undamaged. A broken mage lamp may need to be completely replaced if one of its components is damaged, and a new enchantment would need to be placed instead of a simple recharge. Since the components are fragile, it doesn't make much sense to make the enchantment permanent. He paused, muttering a few words under his breath. He turned to Hazel. Do you know why libraries prefer mage lamps to conventional candles or eternal torches? Hazel shook her head. Mage lamps are easier to enchant since they only give off light, unlike eternal torches which give off light and heat. They also can't cause fires, which is useful when dealing with such flammable things as books. Light glowed in the mage lamp he touched, but only fractionally more than before. As Hazel studied her surroundings, however, she noticed the entire area had brightened, like she stood outside on a sunny day. Come, Hazel, Llewellyn beckoned. Since me and the vampire see better in the dark than you, the intensity of the light shouldn't matter. I doubt the werewolf girl cares for literature, so it's only necessary for me to show you how to adjust the lights. Place all the fingers of one hand on it. It shouldn't matter which. She approached the lamp and followed his instructions. Turn your hand clockwise. Good. Notice how the light is brighter in this area? To dim it, turn your hand counterclockwise. Yes, exactly. Now, to change the area of illumination, move your fingers up along its surface to increase the range, and to decrease it, simply bring your fingers down along its surface. Very good. Llewellyn dusted his hands off. Shall we go upstairs? How do I turn them off? Hazel asked. No need. They could remain at this intensity for several years without requiring recharging. If you truly want it darkened, turn it counterclockwise. To dim them completely would require an addendum to the spell, which would take substantially more time. I can adjust the present enchantments in an hour or two. Oh, no need, she said, not wanting to trouble Llewellyn further. We can go upstairs. Good. I'll finish the rest later, but for now, the range should suffice to prevent you from tripping and falling over anything. Thank you. Llewellyn nodded and walked toward the stairs, with the other two following. When they reached the top, they found Hazel's bags placed neatly to the side, and once again, Hazel saw Lara's bare feet dangling off the side of the couch. The werewolf poked her head over the top of the sofa and grinned. Hey, kid. It's good to see you again. You too, Lara. Well, how about that? She remembered me, Lara said, rising from her seat. Honestly, I am terrible with names, but I never forget a face, which is why I remember you, but can't recall your name. Her face is green, Lavalin said placidly. It'd be difficult to forget it. Laura wrinkled her nose at him. Rude. She turned back to Hazel. Let me see. Was it Ashley? Oakley? No. Lily? Rose. Violet. Hazel, Lavalin said, brushing past her to sit in a large armchair. Hazel, Lara repeated, glaring at Lavalin. I was just about to say that. Well, you were about to run out of plant-related names, Alistair remarked dryly. I still had a few I could have guessed. Anyway, no offense, Hazel. None taken. Have you been to your room yet? No, I'm on my way there now. Oh, Lara said, leaping up with a smile. I'll show it to you. Let me take some of your things. We're fine, Alistair said, reaching for Hazel's bags. I was just about to help her. Lara grabbed the luggage from Alistair with surprising speed. We don't need your help, Prince. Lara glanced down the hallway. Where is her room again? Alistair pinched the bridge of his nose. I thought you said you didn't need help. Lara raised her eyebrows and stared at him expectantly. Alistair finally sighed. Fine. It's upstairs at the end of the hallway. It's opposite your bedroom, Lara. Great. That's all I needed to know. Come on, Hazel. Lara turned and ascended the stairs. Alistair nodded at Hazel. Shout if you need any help. I heard that, Lara called over her shoulder. So funny, she assumed I was talking about her, he mumbled as Hazel climbed the stairs. Hazel studied the building as she walked. The library had undergone few renovations in the past decade, yet much was in excellent condition despite its age. Elegant wood paneling adorned the walls of the winding staircase, and although the spiral of the stairs was constructed simply, it was clearly designed by someone with an eye for the artistic and a mind for the pragmatic. Every 10 steps terminated in a semicircle with a tall window, which would have welcomed abundant natural light if the shutters were opened. She realized then that the library stood with its entrance to the south and its back to the north. They summited the 4th floor, which immediately led out into a large common area, similar to the one immediately beneath it, but with a shift from the functional and fashionable to the comfortable and familiar. A couple of large couches and a few worn armchairs with ottomans made a broad semicircle around a comforting, welcoming fireplace. Several large pillows were strewn about the floor, and a couple of large blankets completed the sense of sleepiness which the room exuded. They continued left through the common area, passing a small kitchen and entering a hallway with a row of closed rooms. The 2 last doors appeared different from the others. On the door to the right was a carved wooden placard of a howling wolf. The left bore a similar placard, except instead of a wolf, it depicted a tree with a large nut placed in the center. Hazel touched the surface of the image with a smile. A hazelnut. Yeah, I think these signs are kind of silly, but I guess it's a nice touch. And hey, at least it helps remind us which room is which. I'd hate to accidentally walk in on the vampire while he's primping. She inclined her head. You mind opening the door? Hazel complied and found herself in a spacious bedroom with large windows adorning 2 sides. It was more lavish than Hazel was accustomed to, but not excessive, and actually strayed a little on the drab side. She noticed a closet and a bathroom through adjacent doors on one side of the room. On the other side stood multiple empty bookshelves of dark wood. A table with a couple of chairs sat near the window. It's not much, Laura said, putting the bags down near the bed. A little boring, if you ask me. Lucky for us, we can change the rooms however we want. New paint, art, furniture. She followed Hazel's eyes to the shelves. Books, you name it. Anyway, I'll let you unpack and get settled in. Thanks for carrying my bags. Laura grinned. No problem. I mostly did it to piss off the vampire. And with that, she exited, closing the doors behind her. Hazel perused the shelves and discovered a note in a small volume. The book was a gift from King Aldrich. Hazel smiled lightly and leafed through the pages of the empty journal she was given. She held it close to her for a moment before replacing it on the shelf. Absent curiosity led her eyes around the room. Ensconced mage lamps in pairs were arranged around the perimeter of the bedroom, by each doorway and on either side of her bed, though only the first two by the entryway glowed. She approached the mage lamp closest to her and increased the light the way Llewellyn had shown her, then wandered to the window on the eastern side of her room. As she shifted the curtains back, she realized it was more of a glass door than a window. She opened it and stepped onto a small metal balcony, with a railing which reached just higher than her waist. The sky had darkened, and stars were visible. From her high balcony, she could see almost a mile into the city, where street lamps in the distance flickered on with the same constant glow as the light in her room, while less densely populated areas possessed conventional lamps. In the nearby vicinity, the area remained dark and quiet. When Calixford University thrived in this specific district, the surrounding area teemed with life and activity, but not anymore. The library was literally a stone's throw from the third wall of the city. Beyond that wall was a dense forest, which would have required almost an hour on foot to access by the nearest gate. This was not, Hazel thought, an ugly place. It was simply abandoned and inconvenient. She stood for a few moments, breathing in the air as a light breeze from the forest blew toward her. With a light sigh, she opened her eyes and quit her room to join the others. Tonight, they would receive their first assignment.